Hi and welcome back to the Gemhawks YouTube channel. Today I would like to take a further step with our channel setting and teach you how to create your very own snake style or serpent ring. Now there are many different ways that you can make this appear, from a very simple wrap around the finger with a head and a tail to something a little bit more elaborate like this, which is sterling silver and tanzanite. Gemstones all the way around in a channel setting, with a lot of coily bits. I don't keep snakes myself, but I imagine they can be a little bit slippery when they want to be. So we're going to be working today on the board with 1mm gauge rose gold copper colour wire, 0.4mm gauge rose gold copper colour wire, and that is already pre-stranded with 2.5mm gauge microfaceted grey moonstone and a single 6mm bead at the head, which is going to be, I think it's a labradorite. I've taken it from my bead jar today, so pretty sure it's a labradorite. That's going to form the head of the snake. Now, as I say, there are many different ways that you can create this design and put your own kind of flavour to it. So I hope that you enjoy the demonstration, but we're going to get started now. Down on the board I've got a length of the 1mm gauge wire. There's probably around about 18 to 20 inches here, significantly more than we need. And we're going to start working in around about the centre of the wire. Now what I'm going to do is to create a bit of a head shape. Now I don't know a huge amount about snakes, but I'm just going to give that a really tight angle at the beginning there. And then I'm going to open it out slightly. I'm imagining that there's a pointed mouth part and then slightly wider, broader area, which is where the eyes would sit. And then I'm just going to, by hand, close that up a little bit to give me an aspect which to me, it could be that lemon shape that we return to time and time again, or it could be kind of snaky. It's entirely up to you how you interpret it. Now I'm going to grip hold of the upper wire as we're looking at it now, which is underneath as it appears, and I'm just going to tweak that gently and open both of these out side by side so we create the beginning of a channel. Now to make life easier, I'm just going to very gently heat the wire and get that moving in the opposite direction, so we've opened up that space in between. What I'm going to do is bring you all the way along to the end, and I'm just going to heat that as much as I can, 3 or 4 strokes of the wire, and then just coil that up. In doing this, what we're going to achieve is making our life a little bit easier for the most part of the demonstration. And what I want this to be is as easy as possible for you all to follow, and for it not to be annoying or tricky, because what can happen is these elongated segments of wire can kick things off the desk, they can catch a bead tray and spill all things on the floor, and that's just a pain in the bum that we don't need. So we've put the coils on either end, and we're just going to work with a couple of inches of channel setting at a time. So I'm just going to open this out a little bit to begin with, pop a little bit of straightness in the beginning section of where the channel will sit. I'm just going to allow that to sit on the board for a second, and then we're going to show you that I've pre-threaded all of my microfaceted bead and a single larger bead at the head. So these are 2.5mm and about 6mm in dimension, and if I had found a grey moonstone that was also faceted in a larger style, that's the one that I would have used. Now you can see that I've turned the end of the wire over, and that's to stop the beads coming loose and falling onto the floor. So I'm just going to discard that segment, and then I'm going to take the wire up to the top of the ring. I'm going to give myself a tail of around about 3 or 4 inches, and I'm just going to wind that. You can open out just a little bit. I'm going to wind that around the nose segment of our design. Now you could leave this open if you prefer, but I don't want to deform the wire too much. I kind of like the shape that I've made, so I'm just going to draw that around. So what we're looking to achieve is a bit of a gizmo effect around the nose segment. And what I might do is just finish this off at the end when I'm doing some more of the mundane segment, the repetitive segment, just so that I can get on with the main section of the demo. So I take this tail, gizmo all the way around up to the point, and then back down on the other side so that it's symmetrical. Take the tail of the wire where the beads are stored and draw that over the widest part of the head section, making sure that I'm happy with my coil, and just giving that a gentle squeeze to make it sit nice and neatly. And I'm going to drop the largest bead, the single oversized bead, into position, and I'm going to do this design in an over the top channel set, which was the second of the two techniques we looked at in our preceding video. So the wire commences on the left hand side over the top, continues over the top of the second wire, and then we're going to wrap around this a good 4 times just to make sure that we've got a good grip on this design. Now 4 times is not going to be enough for me to clear comfortably down on the other side, so I'm going to make it 6 instead, 5 and 6. And I'm going to slide the head bead up into position and then draw the 2 channels down side by side so they start operating as if they were the tram, train, tracks, however you prefer to think of it, that are they're going to need to stay side by side, the same width apart as we go. So before we commence the channel setting, I'm just going to make sure that those 2 segments are indeed straight and true. And then I'm going to make 1 pass of wire underneath the whole design, like so, estimating that I will be able to fit my 2.5mm gemstone into position. So I'm going to go for 3 coils of wire on either side of my channel. I'm just going to set the design down and hold it in position with my pliers whilst I bring in the first gemstone of the design. So now I can free those pliers and take the wire again over the top on the second side and draw that so that we pass 3 times around, creating a coil, 1, 2 and 3. So now the wire is going to pass underneath the whole design. If you find that your coils are a little bit untidy, you can take a moment to just tidy those up, ensuring that you're keeping a safe distance, an equal distance between the 2 tram lines. We're going to pass underneath and then wrap 3 times on the other side. So we have got on the rear of the design a pass of just plain wire underneath, and then over the top you can use your tools to hold down whilst you bring another gemstone into position. Allow that to zip wire down all the way until it sits in the channel between those 2 heavier gauges. Support the gemstone as you wrap once, twice, 3 times, all the way around and underneath. Now you can see that my coil is not neat there, so I'm going to cover up the gemstone, give that a bit of a squoosh, make it nice and tidy. Now what I'm going to do is pass underneath the whole design, wrap 3 times around the second wire, so 1 and 2 and 3 back over the top. So what I'm going to do now is sit for a little while to get a goodly long length of channel setting ready. As I achieve moments where I think I will need to guide you, I will pause my work and I will come back to the recording and show you exactly what it is we need to do next. Welcome back. So I've spent about the last half an hour to 40 minutes or so channel setting a multitude of those beautiful 2.5mm faceted grey moonstone beads, and if you pop down to the board with me I can show you what it looks like. So it undulates slightly, but I don't think that's a massive problem. You can of course control that. What tends to happen as you're moving along is the tension that you're putting in causes the piece to twist as you go, and that's just caused by you winding around and pulling back on the finer wire, and it just deforms it slightly. So every couple of moves or so, what I tend to do is just give that a bit of a shape and work with this lovely long bar-like swathe of channel settings. And I also took a moment just to create a coil with that tail of wire at the head end of our snake design. So I'm just going to do the very, very last section, which is underside and then 3 swoops around. I'm going to bring my last bead into position now, which means I have the opportunity to cut the wire and just make my life slightly easier. So I'm just going to cut the wire over here and then put the reel out of the way. Bring my last bead down into position, and I've given myself a good 12 inches, that's 30 centimetres of wire at the end just to play with. It's more than I need, but it's not a problem. So just putting that last bead into position, holding that down nice and firmly and making sure that we get the narrowest gap between the 2 tram lines of wire just to finish off. Now what I'm going to do here is just taper towards the end. Now I know I've got more wire than I need, so again, to make life simpler, I'm going to trim these away. These make brilliant little spirals and things that you can turn into charms, so just pop those in your pot to keep for later use. And you can see we've done 3 coils around the upper wire. Now we have a pass underneath the design without any gemstone whatsoever. 3 coils on the far side. Now what we're going to do is start bringing those 2 tram lines together in a very, very gentle graduation. So just push them together. You can open up the ends if you need to, just to make your access with the wire easier. And I'm going to have a couple of passes of just plain wire now. Now you can choose to do this either in a zigzag, a figure of 8, or you can continue the same way which you have been doing, which is 3 around one side and then passing top to top and then bottom to bottom, and I'll show you what that looks like. It's really quite an attractive weave in and of itself. So that's 3 around this side, give that a squeeze over the top without a gemstone, pull that nice and tight, and continue until you get those 2 sections of channel wire quite close together. And you can see it's trying to pull over to one side, so I'm just going to give that a bit of a straighten up whilst I complete this last section of the design. So again, 3 times either side until those 2 wires line up side by side. Now, one thing I will talk to you about while I'm just continuing through this segment, when you are starting to do channel setting and really any wire weaving, to begin with you can either be quick or you can be neat. And in my opinion, and obviously that's just my opinion and my thoughts on the subject, I would much rather take the extra time to make my work as neat as possible, and you'll learn as you go along, feeling the wire, how it's going to react for you and what you can get away with, because you have a couple of opportunities to kind of get it a little bit wrong and undo it slightly. So if I were taking my first steps in wire work and somebody was guiding me along the way, I'd really appreciate very, very simply, just take your time, and then as you learn you can get quicker and you can become almost like a machine in how you achieve your channel setting. So just back down to the board here, and I'm going to just finish up 1, 2 and 3. You don't have to do too much if you don't want to. The key is that we've drawn those 2 side sections, those 2 channel wires, quite close together, and I'm going to finish up on the back, and I'm going to cut the wire so that I've got just enough of a tail to then use my bent chain nose pliers just to fix that so that the end sits in between those 2 channels. So what we have now is a great big long swathe of serpentine channel setting, and you will need to use your ring mandrel for the next section. So I've got my trusty wooden mandrel here, and I'm just going to remove the sterling silver and tanzanite ring for just a second and show you that this can be opened and moderated to size if necessary. That's sterling silver, so that's a little bit softer. And what we're going to do is take a look at our snake. Now you actually might prefer the barred side visually, and what you can do is utilise sections. Imagine we haven't done the snake head, you can use sections in your complicated pendants just to kind of surround things. But what we're going to do is start by very, very gently putting a bit of an angle at the head end of the snake, and you'll find that the side on the inner curve starts to lift a little bit. So you just have to very, very gently coerce it and ask it to do what you want it to do. So I'm going to try and get that to go up at approximately 90 degrees. Before I bring it into the ring mandrel, I'm going to aim to make a ring around about this big, bearing in mind they are multi-size. So I'm just going to carefully roll that around the mandrel so that it comes back on itself. And you can see here that I've done so much work that we could take this up along the back of the hand. If I just pop that on the design now, we could bring this all the way up to here and attach it to a chain bracelet. So you have a captive design, a bracelet here and a ring here made from one piece of jewellery. That's an option. Or what you can do is take that for a second turn around the mandrel. Now these are very comfortable on the underside, but because you have faceted gemstones here, they will interact against the other fingers. So it's not the sort of ring that you would perhaps want to go shopping or to the gym with, but it's a beautiful design to work with. Now I've done my second coil around the ring, and I'm using the mandrel now to help me create that little bit of a swoosh at the tail end of the design. Now what you do here is entirely up to you. I'm going to remove the mandrel from view for the second, trim away to around about an inch. And then I'm just going to come in with some round nose pliers and put a couple of swoops on the end. Now you can end this exactly how you want to end it, make the design your own and make it completely personal to you, but what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of a coil here. Obviously not all snakes are going to end up this way, but I like the design and I like how it looks. So I'm just going to switch to my flat facing pliers and draw that as close back round on itself as I can, being very careful at this stage not to lose that beautiful shape that we've created. So warming that last bit of wire, it's seen a bit of action now, it's toughened up slightly. I'm going to put a second coil in. Not all snakes obviously have two little tails at the end there, but like I say, I do like how this looks. You could truncate that sooner and just tuck it away, or you can make the second coil as I have done here. Give that a bit of a squeeze and then very, very gently slide it under the first section. And then you have the effect of one coiled tail. So let's just pop that on a different finger. That is the demonstration to further your channel setting and to show you how to make your very own snake design ring. As I say, depends what gemstones you want to use, how large they are and what you want to use at the head of the snake, but you can make that completely your own. I appreciate your company and your continued support here on YouTube. It's lovely to have you. Thank you so much for watching. Do feel free to join me on Mondays. Every other Monday on Facebook we have a live event. We have a bit of chatter, we talk about gemstones, and I have some carvings and jewellery and such things, cabochons, etc. available to purchase. Look forward to catching up with you soon. Thank you very much for having me. See you later. Bye for now.